Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. In today's video, I am super excited to give you guys a roundup and speed review of all the recent products that I've tried out. Usually on my channel, I try to do monthly roundups, but I haven't really gotten around to filming those for a few months. It's just been a really busy summer, lots of travel, lots of new makeup releases. So you can think of this as kind of a July, August, September roundup. So sort of a summer roundup. I wanted to give you guys updates on all these products because most of my videos are initial impressions, and I think it's always helpful just to hear people's updated impressions after using the products for a while. Everything on my face today is featured in today's video, so I will point that out as we go along. So without further ado, let's do this in the order I would roughly put these products on my face. So let's start with foundations. So a lot of the products from today's video are from my haul from Seoul, South Korea. So definitely check out that video if you haven't already. But two foundations I picked up for that haul were the Black Cushion foundation from Hera. I have this in shade 23N1, and also the Jung Mool Essential Skin Neuter Cushion in the shade medium. And both of these are a little bit light for me. If you saw my initial video, I would highly recommend, if you have my skin tone or any deeper, to check out their websites instead of buying in store, because they do have some deeper shades on the websites. But Korean makeup does tend to like that skin whitening effect, so both of these are very brightening. In terms of formulation though, these are very different. So starting out with the Hera Black Cushion, this is a luxury foundation product. So I had high hopes, especially since Jennie from Blackpink is their spokesperson. But unfortunately, as much as I like Jennie, I did not like this cushion foundation. It's extremely drying on my skin. This is their matte formula, and for me, this just came across as really heavy and cakey on the skin. Looked really bad as the day wore on, kind of broke up wherever I had dry patches. So I would only recommend this if you have really oily skin. In contrast, I actually do like the Jung Mool foundation. This is about half the price as the other cushion, but is a much better formula in my opinion. This will give you that really dewy glass skin effect. It's actually what I have on my face today. So before powder, this is hyper dewy, very, very luminous on the skin. I did powder down my skin today, and with the powder, it's much more of a natural finish, but it still has some of that luminosity and glow. So I really like just how lightweight this is. A very thin layer goes a long way, gives you a nice medium coverage, and just looks really healthy on the skin. Another foundation I've been loving is the Estee Lauder foundation. I have this in 2W1. I got this from the cosmetic company store for only around $20 to $30, and a lot of the products I'll talk about today are from that haul, so also check out that haul video if you are interested in any of these products demoed. But I really love this foundation. It's kind of an oldie but goodie, but it took me a really long time to try it. This is a wonderful event foundation. It is nice and high coverage, but a thin layer is enough so it doesn't feel that heavy on the skin. It's also self-setting, so you really don't need any powder, at least if you have normal to dry skin like myself. And for me, usually with self-setting foundations, they're a little bit too drying, but I found this to be extremely comfortable on the skin and perfecting throughout the day. Another oldie but goodie that I finally tried out recently is this Dior Airflash foundation. I have this in the shade 321. And I picked this up because I have heard so many rave reviews about this foundation over the years, but Dior is discontinuing this. It's probably actually at this point really hard to find it in your shade. So I'm really glad that I picked it up before it's discontinued. This leaves a really nice natural skin-like finish on the face. A light layer is enough for medium coverage, and it is really nice and perfecting. It's not as matte as the Estee Lauder, so I would say if you really want to make sure your skin looks flawless for a whole day, I would go with this one. But I think what's really nice about this foundation is it's quite versatile. You can use this more on an everyday basis, but also for an event when you want some longevity. This just looks really nice and natural on the skin. So in terms of concealer, I recently tried out both the Faux Filter Concealer from Huda Beauty and also the Beautiful Skin Concealer from Charlotte Tilbury. I actually have a side-by-side wear test with those two, so if you're interested in a comparison, definitely check out that video. So in that video, I found that there were some pros and cons to both of the concealers. I have since tried out both several more times, and I think my overall verdict is that neither of these concealers are one that I think I will pick up in a full size. The Beautiful Skin I actually on the whole like better. It's what I have on today, and I really like this for under the eyes. I think it's really nice and hydrating and flattering on the under eye area. It brightens and also smooths, but I don't think this is a very versatile concealer. Today I also put it as primer on my eyelids and also just for some spot concealing, and I think it's not the best for those use cases. On the lids, it's just too hydrating of a formula, so your eyeshadow will look a little bit patchy on top of it, and then on blemishes, it's just too brightening, so it's not the most flattering if you're trying to actually conceal. On the under eye area, this looks pretty nice because the luminosity and the reflectivity of it kind of gives that sort of blurred effect. So I think it looks really beautiful on camera. The reason I don't plan on picking this up in the full size though is just because I find that it can look sparkly in person if you're looking really close up. Not that big of a deal if someone is kind of at a distance from you or if you're on camera, but I just personally don't like being able to see the shimmers under my eyes. To me, it just kind of looks like I have fallout from my eyeshadow, which is just not the look that I'm going for. But I could see reaching for this for events. Moving on to brows, these are two products I picked up in Korea. We have the Dior Dahlia Brow Pencil. This is a pretty thick, chunky brow pencil, and I have this in the shade Dutch Brown. And I actually really enjoy this brow pencil. I think this is a perfect everyday, very natural, easy to use brow pencil. Because it's quite chunky, you can fill in your brows really quickly. This isn't going to give you a super precise look, but it will give you a really natural sort of powdery fill. I also really like this color. I find that with a lot of Western brow pencils, I have to go in with the dark brown shade, which is a little bit on the deep side. This one is very nice and natural on my skin, and I find that I don't really have any issues of going overboard with this product. I also think the packaging is quite luxurious given that it has a little bit of weight and it has this nice octagonal shape. I also picked up this Hince brow gel, which I've been enjoying for the most part. I can't say this is my favorite brow gel, but it's a really solid one. This definitely has a lot more holding power on my brows in comparison to most other brow gels. I have pretty straight brows that don't really like to change direction, so this formula will brush them back much more. It is a little liquidy for my preferences though, so I do find that sometimes I can go overboard with applying it and make certain parts of my brows look too dark. So that's the one thing I don't like about this, but overall it's a really solid brow gel. Now moving on to complexion, one product I have been absolutely in love with, and this was a very big surprise for me, is the Romand bronzer. I have this in the shade 2, which I think is their Walnut shade. It's the deeper, warmer shade of the two options they have. So if you have a deeper complexion than me, I would definitely not recommend this. They only have 2 shades and both of them are super light. But if you have my complexion or any lighter, this is a beautiful formula to check out. So this is probably the most affordable bronzer slash powder that I have in my collection, but it's so easy to use. It blends on the skin so seamlessly. For me, this top part, even though it's maybe supposed to be a bronzer, is just something I use as a setting powder. So today I use that all over the face just to bring down the shine from that foundation. And then it's this bottom part down here that I use as a bronzer. It's a very subtle sculpting shade on my skin, and I find that it's just so easy to use because I really can't go overboard with it, but it's the perfect tone. For me, I find that a lot of contours come across as too gray and a lot of bronzers are a little bit too warm. This is the perfect combination where it's cool enough to come across as a shadow, but you can also use this all over and it won't give you that sort of ashen look. It's really affordable. You can buy this on YesStyle, I think for like $10 or so. So would highly, highly recommend this product. The other bronzer I've been enjoying recently is this one from Kimchi Chic. This is the shade I Went to Venice. It's their third shade. And this is also what I have on my face today. So since the Romand one is very subtle, I decided to layer this one on top to just provide a little bit more bronziness. And when I first got this in my Ipsy Glam bag, I wasn't too sure about this shade because, as you guys can see, it's a little bit yellowy looking. But I actually really enjoy this. So let me give you guys a swatch. So I find that with a lot of bronzers, if it's more reddish in tone, it'll give me that nice kind of sunburnt effect. If it's orangey in tone, it'll just kind of look unnatural. With this sort of yellowy undertone though, I think it does a pretty good job of just looking more tanned on my skin. Since I do have those yellow golden undertones in my skin anyway, I think this just enhances it and adds a little bit of warmth without going overboard in the orangey territory. This formula is also just super easy to use, very blendable on the skin. You don't really have to spend any time buffing it out. It just applies in really nice light layers. So I would highly recommend checking out Kimchi Chic if you haven't already. Moving on to blush, let's start with this one from Romand. I have this in the shade Fig. Again, this is not a good brand for inclusivity of shades. Like many Korean brands, it really taps out at a pretty light shade. This was basically the deepest shade I found in store in Seoul. But I really do love this formulation. This is a beautiful powder that just glides onto the skin seamlessly. You really don't have to think about it when you're applying it. You never have to buff it out. It just glides on in really nice layers that aren't too light but also aren't too pigmented. I think you can buy this on YesStyle for less than $10, so this is probably also the cheapest blush in my collection, but I find myself reaching for this a lot. So would highly recommend Romand when it comes to powder products. Next, I have the Rare Beauty blush, and I have this in the shade Believe. This is a mini size that I picked up and also what I have on my cheeks today. So I had very high expectations for this because this has been basically one of the most viral blushes of the year, and actually maybe last year as well. But I have to admit, I am a little bit disappointed with this formula. I know a lot of you guys love this, but unfortunately for me, it just doesn't work very well for how I personally like to wear cream and liquid blushes. So I find that this looks very nice over foundation and can even perform well over powder. But the way I typically like to wear cream and liquid blushes is on an everyday basis when I'm not necessarily doing a full beat and I might not have any base product on or just very light dewy base. And I find in those contexts, this can come across pretty patchy. Even today, I feel like on this side of my face, which has more texture, I feel like there is a little bit of patchiness. It's just not as smooth as some of my other liquid and cream blushes are. So for me, as much as I wanted to love this product, it's just not quite working out for me. The final blush for today's video is this one from RMS Beauty. This is also one of the very viral blushes of late. I actually have a video comparing these two since they're kind of in the same shade. So definitely check that out if you're interested in a more in-depth review about these formulas. But after wearing this blush for a while, I would say that I am not actually a huge fan of this formula. As you can see, it is an extremely pigmented formula. When you swatch it, it looks more like an eyeshadow than a blush. In practice, that's not necessarily a problem because this is a pretty hard-pressed formula. So when you apply it to the cheeks with a brush, your brush is not going to pick up that much product. But the fact that it is very pigmented for me makes me feel like I do have to spend some time buffing it in. It's not one of those blushes where you can just kind of apply it to your cheek and it more or less blends itself out because it has those beautiful light layers. Instead, this one does involve some degree of buffing. And so it's not a bad formula in my book, but it's just not my favorite, and I have a lot of other blushes that I reach for a lot more than this one. So now moving on to the eyes, I have a lot of eyeshadows to talk about. So let's first start with what I have on my eyes today, which is the new Pat McGrath Moonlit Seduction palette. And I have to say, I have really been enjoying playing around with this palette. To me, this palette didn't actually appeal to me very much when I saw the promo pics. This is not really the color color story I necessarily gravitate to, but I've actually had a lot of fun playing around with this palette. The formulas are absolutely gorgeous. Even though I really miss her baked formulas for her Blitz Astrals, this new formula she has is really beautiful as well. As you can tell, it's just very, very high shine on the lids. It reminds me a lot of indie brands. So if you like that sort of more chunky, flaky, but still kind of liquid on your lids formula, then I think you will like this new Blitz Astral formula. I will say almost all the looks I make out of this palette do kind of look similar, so that is the one thing I'm not a huge fan of with this. In particular, I really, really wish that she had come up with a different shade for this matte. These two mattes over here are just very similar, and I think this one just doesn't actually fit that well in the palette, at least if you're pairing it with this shade over here. These two just don't blend into each other very easily. This one is just a little bit too warm in comparison to this. So I find whenever I use this shade, I can't really deepen it up unless I go in with something like this to add a little bit of that coolness back. Similarly, these three Blitz Astral shades are all pretty light, and so if you are going in with this charcoal deepening shade, in your outer corner, you might need something to kind of blend that transition in. So personally, I find myself often reaching for either this shade or this shade to do that sort of transition. Today, for context, I have this shade all over the crease, and then I have this as a deepening shade. Then this rose gold shade all over the lid with this multi-chrome just in the corner to help blend things in. And then I have this skin show shade in the inner corner and brow bone. I really love this look. It's so beautiful, and I do reach for this palette a lot to create looks like this, but it's not necessarily the most versatile palette. So that's the one caveat I'll say about this palette. Beautiful, beautiful formula though. Would highly recommend if you like this kind of look. Next, we have 3 Tom Ford quads. I got each of these for less than $20 a pop from the cosmetic company store. So again, definitely would plug that if you have an outlet mall near you. So the color stories I picked up were Body Heat, Pretty Baby, and Daydream. And I do actually have videos of all of these that I filmed. I don't think they'll be up by the time this video comes up, but definitely let me know if you would be interested in seeing those videos soon. Just to quickly run through each of these, this is Body Heat. I would say color story wise, this is my least favorite of the 3. It's not super exciting, but the formulation is beautiful on this. It is extremely easy to use, very beautiful and flattering on the lids. So if you like this kind of color story, I would recommend this quad. Next, we have Pretty Baby. This is for me a really fun color story, especially I like this dual chrome shade, which is quite unique for Tom Ford. Formulation wise, I think this one is not as good as the other two. This is in his pressed powder rather than baked gelée formula, so it's not quite as luxurious formulation wise, but this is a gorgeous color story. And I do demo this in my Kayaki 2 brush video, so if you'd like to see this on the lids, definitely check out that video. Finally, we have Daydream. This is definitely my favorite color story of the bunch. It's also a really amazing formula. It's his baked gelée formula. All of these shades look so beautiful on the lids, work so well, even though this is in harder to formulate shades. So I would highly recommend, if you can find this anywhere, to pick this up. This and Pretty Baby can be a bit hard to find nowadays. I think these are pretty old in his collection, but this is one of, if not my overall favorite purple blue palette. So the last eyeshadow I have is this trio from Dear Dahlia. This is kind of like those Kaja ones where you have one shade over here and then one shade over here and a little mirror in between. It's a really cute packaging. So you have 2 mattes and 1 shimmer. This is very much the Korean makeup aesthetic where all of the shades are quite light, so you're not going to get any deep mattes, but I really enjoy this shade over here. Let me actually give you guys a swatch of it. It might look kind of boring and peachy and just sort of skin toned, but it's actually really, really beautiful on the lids. It has a really nice sparkle to it that gives a really nice multi-dimensional look. Even though I typically enjoy more of these more intricate smoky looks, I have been enjoying this little trio on days when I want something super simple but still kind of cute and glam. And so if you're interested in that Korean beauty aesthetic, I would highly recommend checking out Dear Dahlia. Their packaging is just super adorable and luxe, and their formulas are really on point. So rounding out the eye category, I have 2 eyeliners and a mascara from my South Korea haul. So first off, we have this eyeliner from Jung Mool. This is in a coal brown color, and it's the eyeliner that I have on my lids today. And I have to admit, this product has grown on me a little bit. If you watched my initial Korean beauty haul, I was not a fan of this. It's sort of a sheer formulation, so it's not going to give you that instant pigmentation on the lids. It's going to give more like an 80% opacity when you first put it on your lids, but you can build it up for full opacity. Despite the fact that I didn't like it initially, I have been wearing this pretty much every day since filming that video, and I actually do like it now. So for one, I would say the brush tip on this is just very easy to use to make a wing, so I appreciate that aspect. Also, I do think this is really nice on days when you are going for a little bit more of a blurred look. Because it's less opaque, it's not going to give you a super harsh wing, and so it is quite different from most US-based eyeliner formulas in that respect. So if you're in the market for slightly more subtle eyeliner, I would suggest picking this up. One product I have unequivocally fallen in love with, though, is this Sister Anne eyeliner. So this is a champagne gold formula. Let me draw that over here for you guys. Isn't that so beautiful? Look at that reflectivity. So I always like putting this in the inner third of my eyes over here. I think it brings some really nice light to any look. And the staying power on this eyeliner is amazing. So my eyes can be pretty watery, and so I typically find that eyeliner in my waterline never sticks. But this manages to stay the entire day. So I'm so impressed with this formula. I honestly wish that I had also picked this up in a deep brown formulation, because I do like to line my waterline with a deep brown shade. But I love putting this on my inner thirds. It's just so beautiful, brings such nice light to any look. And the shade is just very universal. I think, you know, it basically goes with any look that you're putting together. And the longevity is just so impressive. Another product that is a surprise love for me is this Na Ming mascara. It's what I have on my eyes today. And if you guys have been watching my channel for a while, you know that I basically never wear mascara. It's a combination of I don't really like curling my eyelashes, and also I find that almost every single mascara I've ever tried in my life does basically nothing for my lashes because they're just so straight. It's really hard to hold a curl. And this is the very unique exception. So let me actually zoom you guys in, because I don't know how well you can actually see my eyelashes, but compared to how they normally look, this for me is extremely impressive. It's not a super volumizing mascara, but it is a very lengthening one, so you can really extend your lashes to be quite long. Also, I find that this is not clumpy at all, even if you put a bunch of layers on, and it doesn't weigh down your lashes. Like the fact that my lashes are still standing right now, like an hour after I applied this, is to me so impressive. Very few mascaras can actually hold a curl for my lashes. And also the best thing is that this is actually quite easy to remove. So recently, for example, I tried a Japanese waterproof mascara that looked okay on the eyes, but was just such a pain to remove. I ended up pulling out some of my lashes in the process, but this one is super easy to remove. And that is just so impressive to me because it kind of ticks all the boxes of things that I've been looking for in a mascara. So I can't say that I'm gonna start wearing mascara from now on. I still don't like the process of curling my lashes. But in terms of mascara formulas, if you like me have really straight lashes that don't really agree with most mascaras, and you want one that will hold it up, lengthen them, but be easy to wash off, this is a really excellent formula. So with all the eye products out of the way, let's get into lip products. So let's start with the products I picked up from Korea. So first off, we have this Laka lip tint. I have this in the shade 109 Fresh, and it's what I have on my lips today. So overall, I would say this product to me is just so-so. I really like how this looks when it's first applied to the lips. It feels nice and cooling and hydrating on the lips and gives a really beautiful, almost kind of jelly appearance on the lips. But what I don't like about this is over the course of the day, it does dry down, and I do find that it makes my lips a little bit dry after a while, which is really what I'm not looking for in a watery tint. For context, I do have super dry lips, and so for other people, this might be fine. This is currently one of the best-selling products in Korea in terms of lip products, but at least if you're like me and you have super dry lips, I wouldn't necessarily recommend this formula. Another formula I would definitely not recommend for dry lips is this one from Hera. In general, Hera was a complete miss for me, which is really sad because these products are very expensive as far as Korean makeup goes. But yeah, this product was also just very drying for me on the lips. This is their matte liquid lip, so to be fair, if I picked up the more hydrating version, maybe that would have been better. But I will talk about a matte liquid lip later in this video that I did like. For me, this was just not a very flattering formula. When you first apply this to the lips, it kind of has a powdery, oily sensation because the formula kind of feels like it's powder suspended in oil. So when you first apply this, it's not actually matte, but as the day wears on, the powder kind of dominates and it gives you that matte liquid lipstick effect. For me though, it's just too drying, looks a little bit patchy as the day wears on, so I would not recommend this formula. I have, however, been enjoying these formulas from Armani, which I picked up from the cosmetic company store. So first off, I have these two Armani Lip Powers. These have been formulas I've heard really great things about, particularly from Michelle Wong. So I was really excited to finally pick up two of these. And I have these in the shade 104 and then 400, which is more of a red shade. I can't say these are my favorite shades, but I do really like this formulation. So this is a very comfortable lipstick that glides onto the lips with full pigmentation, but is very long lasting. It kind of feels like it forms a seal on your lips after a while, so it's not necessarily actively hydrating, but it also doesn't let your lips dry out. So if you're looking for something that is a very comfortable formulation that's very long lasting, I would recommend this Armani Lip Power. I also have these super cute Armani Lip Maestro Minis. These are fabulous. This is definitely now my #1 liquid matte lipstick formula. They're not totally matte, especially upon initial application, but they are extremely comfortable on the lips. It's kind of interesting actually comparing these formulas with these because these actually don't set down during the day. They kind of stay as a moussey texture on your lips, and that's how they stay hydrating. Whereas these have more of a satin finish to them, but form a film, so they're actually more budge proof than these over here. But I love both of these. Very different effects, but both very comfortable on the lips. Finally, the last makeup product I have is this Dior Addict lipstick, and I have this in the shade Bandana. So this is a product that I absolutely loved when I first tried it on. It's a really beautiful hydrating formula on the lips. Let me actually give you guys a swatch. You can see that it comes across almost more like a lip balm, but you can definitely build this up to have nice pigmentation. Over time though, I would say that my feelings about this lipstick have soured a little bit, primarily because of the scent/taste. So it does have a pretty strong luxury scent to it, which at first I didn't mind, I actually enjoyed. But I feel like nowadays, whenever I use it, the scent feels a little bit stale almost. I think it's just whatever product is kind of on the edge and is exposed to air does just sort of change in scent a little bit. So when I put it on, it's not really a nice fresh perfume scent. It kind of smells like perfume that's like started to turn a little bit. I mean, I think the lipstick formula itself is fine, but it's just that smell/scent that I just have a hard time getting on board with. So if you really don't mind scents or tastes in your lip products, this is a beautiful formulation. It's super comfortable on the skin, pretty long lasting considering how juicy it makes your lips look. But for me, I just find myself not reaching for this very much. So that's all of the makeup products for today's speed reviews, but I did want to quickly give you guys a couple brush updates as well. So a while back, I reviewed these two Hinoki brushes from Sonia G, and these are some of the softest brushes I have ever tried. So I really love them from that perspective. This brush in particular is my favorite. I love using this for under eye powder, but it's also really versatile for contour or highlight. So if she ever sells this as a single, I would highly recommend picking up this brush. Now this is the brush that I am not as much of a fan of. It is a beautiful brush, very versatile, very soft, very dense. So I really love the application experience with this. What I don't like about this, and I mean you can kind of see for yourself, is literally every time I use this brush, even just a little bit, there are tons of hairs that come out of this. So earlier today I used this to apply powder and bronzer. It did a great job of both of those, but I think like 5 to 10 hairs came out, and I'm used to brushes shedding a bit when you first get them, but this one just continuously has been shedding, which has been worrisome to me because this is a very high quality brush. These are very beautiful soft hairs, and I really like the density of this brush, and so I'm just worried that, you know, over time it's just gonna, you know, continue shedding. So that's been kind of disappointing to me because I don't want to feel like I can't use this brush or can't wash this brush because it's constantly shedding. If you've picked up this set, I would love to hear if your brush has been shedding. This one is totally fine. This one has not been shedding. But this guy over here, I've had a lot of problems with. I have not, however, had any problems with this Sonia G Keyaki set. This is the Keyaki 2 set. I also have her Keyaki 1. But I really love these brushes. I did take them with me on a trip recently, and I found that I could basically create full faces of makeup with no problem with just these 5 brushes. These are all really high quality brushes. I don't really have issues with shedding with them. And this brush over here, which is her jumbo base, you can also buy this as an individual brush in the full size, has become one of, if not my overall favorite foundation brushes. I really love how this angle makes it really nice for just, you know, easily applying the product on your face. You don't have to do that kind of right angle stamping motion. It's just, it feels like a nice soft cat's paw, so I absolutely love this one. And then this crease brush is super handy. I use this as my only crease brush for my eyeshadow today, and I found that this was able to basically do everything, even though I typically like going in with a bigger crease brush and then a smaller one. But this one is a nice medium size that is quite versatile while traveling. Other brushes I would say are not necessarily my favorite for anything, but they do the trick. They are versatile brushes that can be used in a wide variety of ways. In particular, the soft face brush can be used basically for all sorts of different types of powder application. It's small but mighty. So if you are on the hunt for a nice travel brush set and you like Fude brushes, I would highly recommend this Keyaki 2. So that's it in terms of speed reviews for the last few months. I hope this video was helpful for any of you who have been curious about my updated impressions of these products. I would love to hear in the comments below if any of you guys have tried any of these products, or if there's any products that you're particularly interested in seeing more content around. Definitely let me know in the comments down below. If you guys like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you all so much for joining me today, and I'll catch you next time. Bye!